Welcome to the Fast Leader Podcast, where we uncover the leadership life hacks that help you to experience breakout performance faster and rocket to success. And now, here's your host, customer and employee engagement expert, and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, Jim Rimbaugh.
An Even Better Place to Work is an easy-to-use solution that gives you a continuous diagnostic on employee engagement along with integrated activities that will improve employee engagement and leadership skills in everyone. Using this award-winning solution is guaranteed to create motivated, productive, and loyal employees who have great work relationships with their colleagues and your customers. To learn more about An Even Better Place to Work, visit beyondmorale.com/better. Okay, Fast Leader Legion, today I'm excited because we have somebody on the show who uses a phrase and it's just totally fascinating to me, and I'm looking forward to us to talk about it. And it's called purposeful discomfort. Bill Treasurer grew up 22 miles from Manhattan in a town called Larchmont, New York. While his friends were mostly old money rich kids, his dad worked at the New York Telephone Company and drove a Volkswagen Bug. What makes Bill Bill is that he never had it easy. He prides himself on earning the things that he's gotten the hard way. Bill was a scrawny kid who never excelled in team sports. One day, though, he and some friends were jumping around on the diving board at the public pool, and by mistake, Bill did a backflip. It was a moment that changed his life. Springboard diving became his sport, his discipline, and his love. He won the Worcester County Diving Championships 3 times and later got a full scholarship to West Virginia University. Eventually, he became the captain of the U.S. high dive team and performed over 1,500 dives from heights that scaled to over 100 feet. Some of the dives Bill performed while being doused in gasoline and lit on fire. By the way, Bill has a debilitating fear of heights. Now, Bill considers himself a leadership plumber. For the last 2 decades, Bill has worked with emerging and experienced leaders every single day. Sometimes he works with leaders on succession planning, other times he's doing one-on-one coaching with them, and sometimes he's sharing what he learned from other leaders. Bill has done hundreds of keynotes and workshops sharing insights he's learned from his leadership clients. Bill is the author of Leaders Open Doors, which was inspired by a conversation with his then 5-year-old son, Ian. 100% of Bill's royalties are being donated to programs that support children with special needs. Bill is the father of 3 children, Ian, Alex, and Bina. Bina has cerebral palsy and is deaf. Bill considers her to be one of his greatest teachers. The common virtue that runs through Bill's life and career is courage. It was courage that allowed him to walk through his fear of heights, leave a 6-figure job to start his own business, be a truth teller to dominant executives, and face the challenges, realities, and joys of being a father of a children with special needs. Along with his wife Shannon, Bill and his family live in beautiful Asheville, North Carolina. Bill Treasurer, are you ready to help us get over the hump?
Jim, I can't wait to help you all get over the hump, especially the Fast Leader Legion.
Thanks, Bill. Now, I've given them a little bit about you, but can you tell us what your current passion is so that we can get to know you even better?
Man, my current passion is partly purposeful discomfort. I think it's really important that people be courageous in their life, and you're not going to find your courage in your comfort zone. You're going to find it by stepping outside of your comfort zone into what I would call your discomfort zone.
You know, and as I was, reading and learning more about, what your thoughts around purposeful discomfort actually is, that there's something that stood out to me that is something that I've really been advocating and talking about for a long time. And to be honest with you, it's something that I always question myself about whether or not I should be doing that. And that is that your job as a leader is to make people uncomfortable.
Isn't that surprising? It's such a surprising statement. We would think that, your job as a leader is to pat people on the back and to make sure that they're comfortable and to take good care of them. And all that stuff is true. But what's really true is your job as a leader is to make people uncomfortable. And that means nudging them outside of their comfort zone so that they're growing, stretching, expanding their capabilities, constantly striving to do better than they did yesterday. A key question that a leader needs to constantly be reinforcing and asking is, sure, that's good enough, but what's better? What's better? Those 2 words are very powerful. And you don't find what's better in your current condition. You find it outside of your current condition into what I would call your discomfort zone. Now, we need to be clear, Jim. This doesn't mean that because you're making people uncomfortable that you have to be intimidating. You don't. I think that you should not. My title is Chief Encouragement Officer. I believe in encouraging people, meaning putting courage inside of people, not in fearing them by putting fear inside of them. That said, you need to encourage them to move into their discomfort zone, nudging them to get into discomfort so that they can grow, progress, and evolve on behalf of their career and then on behalf of the company. So your job is to make people uncomfortable.
And you bring up, as you're talking, and thanks for sharing that, is that, there's several things that ran through my head, and that, for people that don't have the opportunity to see through this audio, is I'm a big guy. I'm 6'4", I was 250 a few months ago, and I'm working on losing some weight. I'm on my way to 220, and I made it public, so now I got to do it. But a doctor wants me at 185. I said, you're nuts. But anyway, I'm a big guy. And I'm not afraid of, actually making people feel uncomfortable when I see that they have more in them that for whatever reason, they're not allowing out. Right? And one of the things that I found is because when you start putting in the fact that I'm a big guy, I've got the big brow, all of those things, I can be intimidating just by my presence. That in itself can do it. And so I've tried to be really mindful and try to really connect with people first at a level that is much deeper than the superficial, so that they can, and also I've learned more to share my intent so that it isn't as fearful in the intimidation, but regardless, I'm going to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? Especially if our size is sort of imposing for others, and if we ask them and invite them to do and encourage them to do uncomfortable things, we don't want them to do it out of intimidation or fear. We want them to do it out of their own want, so that they excel and that they can close the gap between their potential as it exists today and actualizing their potential as it needs to be tomorrow. So some of that takes good trust building between you and that person. If they see that you truly have their best interests in mind in nudging them into their discomfort, they'll give you a lot more leeway than if they think that you're pushing them into discomfort because it's going to somehow benefit you, make you more powerful, make your leadership spread around more. So part of it is the motive. Are you asking people to do uncomfortable things as a leader because it benefits you and the organization, or because it actually helps them add more value by increasing their skills and capabilities?
Yeah, and so for me, I think, as you were saying that, without actually not cognitively assigning it, previously, I guess what I'm trying to do more often than I was just totally aware of is earn the right to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think you earn it, but you have to do that investment upfront time to know what their goals are, their desires, where they want to end up with their career, what their aspirations are. And if you take that time and put that investment and really listen to them, listening is a sign of respect. It shows that you respect that person, that you care about them. Then once that trust is built, you have a lot more latitude to be able to push, and sometimes push forcefully, because they know that you're doing it for their best interests, because you've taken an interest to find out what their best interest is.
That's true. And with a lot, there's, when you start talking about, the things that we're referring to and the learnings, and there's a lot of, things that we need in order to help us stay on that direction. And one of the things that we use on the show is leadership quotes, because they can have such a huge impact for us to help stay the course, maybe even go in a different or better direction, or reset a direction. Is there a quote or two that kind of stands out for you that you can share?
Yeah, I love quotes, and there's the quotes in the immediacy of the moment. When I read a book, I'm like, that's a great quote. And I'm not great at remembering them, but I did recall a quote that means a lot to me, and it's because so much of my life, as you know, is dedicated to courage. And one of my websites is couragebuilding.com, because I'm a courage builder. It's what I do. So it's part of my practice is courage building. So this quote to me by Marilyn Ferguson, fear, she says, is a question. What are you afraid of and why? Just as the seed of health is an illness, because illness contains information. So she says, just as the seed of health is in illness, because illness contains information, your fears are a treasure house of self-knowledge if you explore them. So I love that idea that fear is a question, and that it's a treasure house of self-knowledge if you explore your fear. Most of us see fear as something that we need to run away from, maybe occasionally fight or get frozen by and choke because we see it. But really fear, if we stay with it and get willing to work through it, walk through it, and attend to it and listen to it, it might be telling us something on the inside. So fear is really a question. What are you afraid of and why? And what's it trying to tell you? So it's taught me a lot about the idea of courage, is to be present when you're afraid, and don't run from your fear, but stay with it, because you're probably, if you get on the backside of fear, it will have taught you a lot of redeeming things about yourself that is going to make you a stronger individual in the long run.
Wow, as you were talking, I started thinking about something that happened here recently. I'm helping coach my 10-year-old son's baseball team, and they actually go through a draft process to make sure that the teams are even,
Wow.
and which is great. I mean, it's
At 10.
fantastic.
Yeah.
At 10, yes. And after we got done through the drafting process, the guy who's in charge had said that one of the kids that we selected through our draft process, Coach Chris, I help him. I'm the assistant. He was telling Coach Chris and I that his mom said, please try not to put him on a team where somebody's going to make him cry.
Hmm.
And for me, the things that you were just talking about, courage to me is a learned behavior, and building that is a learned behavior. I mean, we're born with a clean slate. We don't know what fear. What do we always worry about kids? Why do we give them gates at stairs? Why do we do it? Because they have no fear.
Mm.
So the fear is learned, and then therefore courage has to be learned to overcome that fear. And I started thinking, about that mother. I'm like, what are you preventing that child from learning, experiencing, growing, if you want to do that to them?
And she's a loving mother, wants to protect her kid. It's kind of normal behavior. And you're right. We do too much of the teaching the don'ts. Don't talk to strangers. Don't play with matches. Don't cross the road without looking both ways. But the truth is, you got to learn how to use matches, and you're going to have to learn how to interact with people. So you better learn the do's just as often as you learn the don'ts. But you're right. We over-attend to protection. And we do that internally too, with self-protection. So we avoid situations where we think we're going to get harmed. And we often stay in the comfort zone because it's the safer place, we think. But if you stay in the safe place too long, it can actually become dangerous to your own career, to your ability to have more influence as a leader. So it's funny that we're talking about this, because I'm literally right now in the midst of writing a new book. And the working title of the book is called A Leadership Slap in the Face. And the idea is that we as leaders learn best and deepest, mostly through embarrassing and humiliating experiences. We learn through pain. We learn more through pain than we do from the times that are painless, that we are always trying to avoid pain, so we get into a painless situation. And yet I think of the humiliating experiences that I've had in my leadership life, and they've been so important and informative, and they've shaped me as who I am. I think that the greatest aspiration of a leader is to be confidently humble. You've got to have confidence, true confidence, authentic confidence, and grounded to humility. But the reality is, you learn humility through humiliation. You have a humiliating experiences, and suddenly, you're not so far out over your skis anymore. You bring your ego back into a right-sized condition. And sometimes it takes a good slap in the face from life that sort of humbles you, that then you can allow authenticity come in and get much more grounded and real, and stop thinking of yourself as more important than the people that you lead. Because leadership's not about the leader. It's about those being led. But if you're puffed up and on yourself and not humble, you're due for a face slap. So the new book is A Leadership Slap in the Face. And it's about that idea that, hey, not only are you going to have painful experiences, if you're a leader worth your salt, you're certainly going to have them, but you might as well learn from them. So let's plumb those experiences so you can benefit from them.
Well, and that's a perfect segue to one of the things that is the main standpoints of what we do on the show, is that we talk about humps that we've had to get over, right? Because It's just that we learn. And here's the beauty about the stories being told by our guests, is that it gives our listeners the opportunity to learn through those experiences. So when you start talking about learning, failing, all of those things, we have to do that if we're going to grow. We have to. And we have to have as many experiences, but we only have so much time on the earth. So learning about experiences of others, and then we can help them take them as our own, is valuable. So can you think about a time where you've had to get over the hump and it really taught you a lot, and you could share it? Yeah,
I'll tell you one very embarrassing, humiliating experience that was so transformative for my career. I worked at a company called Accenture. It's one of the world's largest management consulting companies, very reputable. And I was there, and I was doing well, and I was in the change management practice. And in my performance review, my boss said, you're doing pretty good over here. Here's some areas I'd like you to improve. but there's one other thing I want to tell you. Please close the door. And so I knew, this is kind of serious. I said, what is it? He said, I'm starting to see something in your behavior, and it's really concerning me. And my concern is that if you don't address this, it's going to become a drag on your career. And if I'm noticing it, other people are definitely starting to notice it. And you're going to want to remedy it, or you're not going to actualize your potential as a leader, and your career will plateau. I said, well, what is it? He says, well, I think you're becoming a brown noser. Oh, it hurt. I mean, it stung. I was embarrassed. I was like ashamed. And I looked at him and I tried to joke it off. I said, well, what do you mean? Hey, you got a nice tie. And he didn't laugh. But what he said next made all the difference. He said, Bill, you're a smart guy. You're a clever guy. Don't rely on laughing at my jokes harder than they are funny to get ahead, because not only is it dishonest, it's manipulation. You're trying to get ahead by being a false friend to me. He said, I'd rather have you be a truth teller. I'd rather know what you actually think about something than have you sucking up to me so that you can get farther ahead in your career. He said, trust yourself, Bill. Trust your inclinations. Tell me what you really think. That was so liberating. It was one of the most important things I've ever learned in my career, and one of the most important things I ever learned about leadership. And the ultimate message was to trust myself. And so it freed me up. It gave me permission to care less what other people think about me. And it made me a stronger writer and a stronger consultant, and I think probably a stronger friend. So, but again, that face slap, that humiliating, embarrassing moment that had to sting in order for me to bring about useful and maybe even profound change.
It's kind of funny that you say that, because I mean, that whole brown nosing concept is something that I've kind of rebelled against for a long time. So I went the other end of the spectrum, meaning that I wasn't going to show people that I cared. I wasn't going to do that because I didn't want to be labeled as a brown noser. And that in itself impacted me just as much as if I was one.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, it's funny, now this is an embellishment, and I'm not saying that you and I are either one of these things that I'm going to talk about, but I literally this morning, before I got on with you today, I'm into a chapter that I'm calling, and this is sort of the wild end of the spectrum of both conditions. The person who is too much into flattery and too much into modesty. And the chapter is called Pigheads and Weaklings. And on the one hand, if you're a pighead and it's all about the size of your ego and the falseness of your showy-ship, your showmanship, but no depth, then it's going to hurt you in the way that it did with my case. In your case, it might have been on the other side. Instead of I was the pighead, and in this example, if I'm too modest, then it can hurt my career too, because I'm not going to get noticed and I'm not going to get as paid attention to. I might not be included as much, so there's the danger of that too. I think the middle place, if you can get to the right place, what I would call right-sized, if you could get a right-sized ego, you can become confident, which is important, and modest at the same time. Confident humility, but not false levels of either condition. You don't want to be overly modest and certainly don't want to be overly, on yourself, conceited. So it's a delicate balance. But Pigheads and Weaklings is one of the chapters today.
Well, and mine actually came from probably multiple years of getting beaten up by my two older brothers. I had to actually show them that I was the tough guy and actually could handle it. And also that they wouldn't be able to intimidate me. So you're not going to win over me, man. And so I kind of carried a little bit of a different aspect to it, because if you started peeling back the machismo, I'm a soft-hearted guy.
Right. Yeah, it's funny how that works, how we respond to things. And now I'd say I went a little bit in the other direction too. My dad was a really dominant. My dad was a hothead. My dad was one of those fathers that you do see at the ball field, who's yelling at their kid, that kind of stuff. The big red face when he'd get upset about something. I mean, I loved my dad. He was a great man. But he was a hothead. And I think I rebelled against authority at certain times in my life, in particular my late teens and early 20s, because he was the ultimate authority figure. And I saw authority as dominance and intimidation. And I thought, I don't want to be like that. It's funny how we do respond to the situations in our family. I really think our parents are our first imprint of what does a leader look like. And a lot of times we do one of two things. We either adopt their style wholesale without questioning whether that style fits us, or we reject that style and say, I'm going to go in the opposite direction because I don't want to be anything like that. I think what matters is how do we end up getting our own style that's unique to us? And sometimes it takes years to develop that.
Yeah, it's definitely been that for me. Okay, so I know you got a lot of things going on, and we talked about some of that in the bio with the, the coaching, and you referred to you writing another book at the moment, but you the kids, the charity work that you're doing. I mean, a lot of stuff going on. I mean, if you were to say you had a goal, what would it be?
My goal is to be, I just love this idea of Mother Teresa. I'm not saying I'm anything like Mother Teresa, but what I'm saying is that I love her idea of being God's instrument, that she's just his pencil, right? Like if I can situate myself into really being connected with divine providence, and that if I can allow whatever that providence wants to work through me to say that and have a positive impact on people, then I feel like I'm doing my job. So I guess my goal is to be a good steward of the message that divine providence wants to put through me and give to others, to be a pencil in the way that Mother Teresa was.
And the Fast Leader Legion wishes you the very best. Now, before we move on, let's get a quick word from our sponsor. The number one thing that contributes to customer loyalty is emotions. So move onward and upward faster by gaining significantly deeper insight and understanding of your customer journey and personas with emotional intelligence. With your empathy mapping workshop, you'll learn how to evoke and influence the right customer emotions that generate improved customer loyalty and reduce your cost to operate. Get over your emotional hump now by going to empathymapping.com to learn more. All right, here we go, Legion. It's time for the Hump Day Hoedown. Okay, Bill, the Hump Day Hoedown is the part of our show where you give us good insights fast. So I'm going to ask you several questions, and your job is to give us robust yet rapid responses that are going to help us move onward and upward faster. Bill Treasurer, are you ready to hoe down?
I'm ready for the hoedown.
All right. So what do you think is holding you back from being an even better leader today?
Well, probably the desire to be a more present father and husband. I'm on the road so dang much that I've lost sight of the fact that, leadership begins at home. And so much of and this is not holding me back from being a better leader per se. It actually is helping me be a more well-rounded leader. I'm out of balance in one world, my work world, and having to bring my presence back into my family and home life. And that might mean giving up some things in order to do that. But that's my current emphasis.
What is the best leadership advice you have ever received?
Stop brown-nosing and believe in yourself. Attached to that, be courageous.
What is one of your secrets that you believe contributes to your success?
I am really, really afraid of death. And I think that's a good thing. I know that life is fragile and it's dang fast, and you speed through this life. So you've got to make the most out of it. Take a big bite of this apple before you kick. Use it to your fullest advantage because it's fragile and it's going to go and it's going to be very fleeting. So use your life now and use it for good.
What do you feel is one of your best tools that helps you lead in business or life?
I'm lucky because I can't do so many things. There's so many things I'm incompetent at. But the one thing I have a little degree of competence for, but more important, passion for, is writing. When I get lost in writing, usually it's a dreamy space and good things come out of that. So if I pay attention, and it's my passion place, my head tingles when it's working well. Writing is my tool.
What would be one book that you'd recommend from any genre to our listeners?
Your listeners are going to really love this book. It hasn't come out yet. It's by Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner. They're friends of mine. They're great leadership luminary gurus. And they have a new book coming out this spring, and it's called Learning Leadership. And it's a fantastic book about basically how do you learn leadership. So that's a great one. And then I would say for any reader, one of the pieces of work that had the most profound impact on me and my thinking is Ralph Waldo Emerson's essay, and it's called Self-Reliance.
Okay, Fast Leader listeners, you can find links to that and other bonus information from today's show by going to fastleader.net/Bill Treasurer. Okay, Bill, this is my last Hump Day Hoedown question. Imagine you were given the opportunity to go back to the age of 25, and you have been given the opportunity to take the knowledge and skills that you now have back with you, but you can't take everything. You can only choose one. So what skill or piece of knowledge would you take back with you, and why?
Play it less safe. Learn to live without a net and trust yourself. Just show up, keep doing the next right thing, but take action, especially when you're afraid. So do the next right thing, learn to live without a net, trust in divine providence, and you'll do great things in this life. Don't play it so safe.
Bill, it was an honor to spend time with you today. Can you please share with the Fast Leader Legion how they can connect with you?
A bunch of ways. BillTreasurer.com, CourageBuilding.com, LeadersOpenDoors.com, and my company, GiantLeapConsulting.com.
Bill Treasurer, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. The Fast Leader Legion honors you and thanks you for helping us get over the hump. Woo-hoo! Thank you for joining me on the Fast Leader Show today. For recaps, links from every show, special offers, and access to download and subscribe, if you haven't already, head on over to fastleader.net so we can help you move onward and upward faster.